We have a quorum. We'll proceed. Item B is Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, item C, consent agenda. What are the wishes?
Mr. Chairman, I'd move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and second. Any discussion? Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Barry,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Corey,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
Motion carried. Item D is public comment. If there's anybody here that is not on the agenda already and has a public comment, if they wish to address the board, now is the time. I don't see anybody running for the microphone, so we will go on to item E, planning and zoning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Michelle Haugen with County Planning. Today we have LU-0086-24, which is Enterford Digital Valley LLC. They're requesting a conditional use permit to construct and operate a cryptocurrency data mining facility within the heavy industrial zoning district. This is located in Sublot 2 and Sublot 3 of Section 4, Township 155 North, Range 95 West, which is Dry Fork Township. The township did originally recommend a denial because of the strong opposition from residents within the township. However, on January 8th of 2025, Dry Fork Township met with Enterford Digital on the project. On January 9th, we then did receive an updated recommendation for approval from the township. The applicant is requesting the conditional use permit, which includes a variance from the 1 mile setback requirements to construct and operate a 30 megawatt cryptocurrency data mining facility within the heavy industrial zoning district. The site will consist of a 66 by 322 foot building to house the servers, 10 transformers located around the perimeter of the building, and 1 electrical vault. The site will have security fencing around it as well. According to the applicant, this will be a state-of-the-art facility and use specific building designs to maximize efficiency. The applicant has a current signed power agreement with Montreal Williams Electric Cooperative to receive up to 30 megawatts of power. However, this use is considered an interruptible load. There are sensitive properties within the 1 mile setback, with the closest being approximately 0.86 miles. However, in September of 2024, Enterford Digital successfully appealed with this board to be allowed to apply for the conditional use permit. Access to the subject property is off of 60th Street Northwest. On December 19th, 2024, the Planning and Zoning Commission heard this item. At that time, it was tabled to give the applicant time to speak with the township. On January 16th, 2025, this was brought back in front of Planning and Zoning Commission, and on that date, they did recommend approval 9-0.
Is the applicant present? Do you guys have anything to add? If you do, come on up to the mic. Make sure you introduce yourself for the record.
Enterford Digital Project out of Bismarck. Our headquarters is in Bismarck. We have a little slide presentation that we actually presented most of it to the board previously when we did our appeal. But for the sake of not making sure everybody's comfortable with the information, I could go through it real quick in about 5 minutes just to refresh everyone's memory, if that makes sense, and take any questions you'd have. Also with me today, I have Dewey Bailey, who will be kind of talk through the building side of it as far as what the scope of the project is and what we'll be doing. He'll be the project manager on the ground here out of Williston for the project. Just for this, so all good?
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay, so first of all, the slide deck, if you just look at the slide deck, the cover up there is really the inside of our data center. That would be an aisled tunnel with miners down both sides. That's a picture of a site that we're replicating from Texas. While it does show an open air, it will not be an open air. It'll be sealed up. But the idea that it'll be, a single building as opposed to some of the miners are doing projects with containers, this will be a single building. If we want to go to the next slide, please. This identifies the location. The blue cube in the middle is the site that we have bought and purchased. The site, the numbers 1 through 4 identify the type of facilities and activity around the location, being an industrial park area. So when it came down to discussion related to noise, we just wanted to make the point there's a lot of industrial activity. If there's any location Williams County would look at doing something like this would probably be one of them. Next slide, please. This gives a picture of 1 mile. Our site is in the middle of that circle, so that circle is out to 1 mile. On the left side of the screen, that is the location of a residence that's really more, I think, commercial today. We got their approval on the left side. They're just at the 1 mile. And then on the far right of the slide, that is where it's 0.86 where the residence is, and we'll talk a little bit about the study. But those would be the 2 primary residents related to where someone's actually at the facility on the distance. And then we still have, obviously, all that industrial work around it you can see around the circle. Next slide, please. Part of the reason we talk about coming to North Dakota is because of the abundance of power and taking advantage of some of the gas optimization. But one of the big reasons is temperature, because it's cold. Miners throw off a lot of heat. And so we'll be using air-cooled miners that will be in our facility. We have some sites down in Dallas. The challenge is in Dallas you fight with the heat in the summer. So you have miners that are always fighting it. So everybody wants to take advantage of the cold air. And so that's one of the main reasons. Along this is an industrial center. And we are looking at, this is a 30 megawatt, as it was stated. Our goal is to do about 100 megawatt a year. We're looking at some sites in South Dakota, working with Basin Electric on some potential projects of Bitcoin. The whole idea of Bitcoin being our first step down the road, if Bitcoin, some people say, well, it's going to fall apart, it's not going to last. I read an article this morning that's going to be $700,000 rather than 100 here in about, 3 years. So who knows what's going to happen, but if we make any changes outside of what we're intending, we have to come back for the CUP. So if we have someday said, hey, we'd like to move this to an AI data center, it's a different building. We'd have to come back for the commission, planning and zoning, and reiterate all of that. Next slide, please. Dewey. I'll have Dewey come up and speak to our partners, not necessarily all partners, but solution providers.
I'm Dewey Bailey. I'm with Bakken Power Consulting. A little background about me. I've worked for Caterpillar for about 10 years here in Williston. I live in Williston and worked in power generation. In fact, on some generations where we actually worked with the city of Williston to put power on the grid at the water plant and also the wastewater plant. So background in power generation. I guess one of the things that's really, I really liked about Interfor when they approached me to help with this project is they were interested in having a lot of local contractors build it. And so here's a slide that shows kind of the people we've engaged to build this project. Frederick's Custom Solution will be the general contractor, obviously getting power from MWEC under an agreement. Interstate Engineering is obviously a facility here in Williston. They're our engineering company, civil engineering. AH Electric is a tier 1 company out of Killdeer, North Dakota, electrician. They got about 80 electricians. They're going to be doing the electrical work for us. AE2S is an electrical engineering firm that we've engaged. They've got an office here in Williston as well and in Fargo. And then the manufacturer of the project from Rigid. Next slide, please. Frederick's Custom Solution is really the main guy engaged, or main company engaged with us. And Jesse Fredericks is the owner and CEO of Fredericks. They have a construction company as well as they're a flare mitigation company. Jesse has a background in data mining. He's actually doing data mining on oil and gas sites with flare gas. And so he's actually servicing and he'll actually be doing the servicing and actually is constructing the building. Interfor Digital, obviously is a company. Next slide, please. Here's the location, and as you can see, there's a substation right across the highway from this facility. This used to be a man camp facility, so there's a shop, existing shop on the facility. And that's where this project's going to be. Next slide, please. This is the actual footprint of the building on that location. You can see the shop in the right corner there. The building will be 420 foot long, and we'll adapt this site. Right now, this site pretty much yields itself. It already has drainage. We are going to add a couple ponds, wastewater ponds, to collect the surface water and on the ends. This building's 420 foot long, and that's kind of the footprint of it. Next slide, please. I guess the uniqueness of kind of the sound thing, this is a diagram of the building itself, and one of the things that's unique in this design, we went down and saw it down in Texas, Jesse and his general superintendent. The miners are about 20 feet from both walls, and they vent into the center, into the hot aisle, and actually vent the hot air out of the middle. So the mitigation of sound is really affected by that design. That was one of the reasons they had went to Texas to look at this actual facility. After that, we sent the sound engineer down to actually measure the sound from that existing facility in Texas. And then they came up here to this site and actually did a sound study on the site and superimposed this building on that sound, and that's the basis of the sound study. Next slide. Well, I'll turn this back over to Gary because he understands the sound study a little better than I do.
Okay, thank you, Dewey. So the main thing I would point out is the center of that picture where it's blue and kind of a bubble around of dark chocolate brown, if you will, around it. That's where the facility is. If you want to look at the legend, it identifies the decibel sound, and so you can see the decibel sound could be right around 60 to 70 in the decibel sound. That would be right at the building if you're 10 feet away. But as you move away from the building, the contours of the land make adjustments. And so when they did the sound study, they did some identification. And so if you look to the right of the building, if you get to the green on the right, you'll see there's a light green line that says 35 dB. That would be the residence that's at 0.86. And so the question is, how loud is a 35 dB? It's actually, if you look and Google it, it'll say it's just a smidgen above a whisper in a library. So the sound level at 35 dB is quite low. And so that would be the contours of the way the land adjusts for it, and that's the definition of it. A John Deere tractor, when you started up with the loaders, around 85 dB, if you were to look at what's the sound going to be. And so while there's an intensity at the center of where the building is, as it moves across the area, it gets out at that 3/4 mile at 35 dB. Any questions related to the sound yet at all? Next slide. This just identifies what the study was. You see the yellow box, the boundary, the project boundary. When we hired the outside wave engineering out of Denver, they came up, and that was a request that's part of the application from Williams County. We brought them in, and they identified receivers while they went down and did a study down in Texas identifying similar miners in the same building structure. They identified where the receivers would be, and that's what those red boxes are. And that's where we had the previous slide that identified the sound. They came in for 24 hours and ran the study and had the miners run it, the receivers running and picking up noise, and that can identify. We have a more extensive study that I think we probably supplied earlier to the P&G, Planning and Zoning, excuse me. Next slide, please. This is just a sampling of a picture that our slide is on one on the left. It shows our building with the red arrows and identifies the residences that are within a mile to mile and a half. The slide on the right is actually the city of Williston. It's the Atlas structure that's kind of created a lot of the whoopla, if you will. And we wanted to identify how close some of those properties are in Williston related to the facilities where there's, within a few hundred feet, where ours are 0.86 miles away. But we wanted to do a comparison. The other thing is comparing the differences when Dewey pointed out about how the building is. Our miners are in 20 feet away. We're bringing the air in and going up through the hot aisle. Their miners are blowing out right up against really the walls. We actually have talked to the company that built the walls around to help mitigate some of the sound. If we found that the sound is a little bit worse than we think, and you get in and you build and Sometimes there's condition that might change a little bit. We have actually engaged that company to have further discussion. There are additional ways to mitigate, but we believe the structure of the building allows for mitigation of the sound that would be quite minimal. Next slide, please. Overall, we just feel that this building will be, we have about 40 people that'll take for the construction of the building. Our hope is as soon as the ground allows us to get started with it. We've got the agreement in place with Montreal Williams to get the power there. It's close by across the road. We think it'll be 25 to 30 full-time jobs working at the facility. It'll be open, we'll have people there, 2 to 3 people on pretty much a 24-hour shift. We're in 10-hour shifts and kind of might be a few hours a day, but we'll have security around the property related to chain link fence. But it'd be about 20, 25, maybe as many as 30 employees for the facility with 40 construction jobs for a while it's being built. Next slide. We just talk about the benefit of how that we wanted to point out related to power. If you look at the center, we talk about a curtailable load, which is much different sometimes because our agreement with Montreal Williams, we are secondary when it comes to power. If there's going to be a brownout or warning, Montreal Williams only guarantees 95% uptime. So if weather's 25 below and we know there's going to be a brownout, they give us a notice, we got to bring it down. If there's any emergency, residents always have primary and agricultural priority over us. So we have a curtail agreement. We do have real-time response so that we're able to bring our site down, bring it back up in pretty much real time. I think, next slide. Just talking about what we're going to be doing is we are going to try to provide some scholarships locally so we can provide some talent that we can have working at the facility through the county out there in Tioga because we're going to have local people all working in the operation. So we're hoping that between tax benefits to the county and the benefit of being involved in the community that we will look forward to working alongside the commission and people locally. I think that's my last slide. Any questions?
Thank you. Anybody have anything they'd wish to ask?
Mr. Aveneth, I wonder if Interfor or other companies like Interfor would consider planting a solid grove of evergreen trees around a facility to help dampen sound and just add to the aesthetics of the property?
We have talked about it, and we're very open to that. Absolutely. We're very conscious. Our goal is to do more than this 30 megawatt. We're working on other potential projects, and we want this to be a showcase. So when people come in, they can look at it and say, "This, these guys care about the community and where we're at." So that's a consideration that we're very much considering. Yes, yes, sir.
Steve, have you got
One quick
anything?
question. One of the questions I just want for you to cover again. I have seen or visited several of these sites. The Atlas Data Center, the air is pulled in from one side of the building and then ejected out immediately out the other side of the building. Did you, just for clarification's sake, you're going to pull the air from the sides and then eject the air out of the roof area?
That is correct.
Is that correct?
That is correct. And we are setting back the miners like around 20 feet from the exterior walls. So when they are running, we will have sound inside of it to absorb some of the sound wave, inside the building, even though it's not right up against the wall is the point. And we are doing some things with the structure of the building inside to help mitigate even sound from getting out because we know this is critical. And it's the biggest concern we've had from residents. And so
I would encourage you to do that. In the sites I visited, the ones that eject the heat and sound out the roof were far quieter than the Atlas Data Center, that's for sure. One other couple of contextual things too. The Bitcoin market cap is about right around $2 trillion. The last coin is expected to be mined in 2040 or 2140. And the Fed chairman just compared it to digital gold. So I don't think Bitcoin's going anywhere.
we're counting on it, but we are working on backup plans. Because it's
Yeah.
I think the investment probably till we're done and open, it's going to be $10 to $15 million project. And so it's a pretty big investment commitment we're making to the property and the location.
Okay, anybody else have any questions? No? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And this time we'll turn it over to the board. What are the wishes of the board?
I'd make a motion to follow planning and zoning's recommendations and requirements.
There's a motion. Is there a second to Barry's motion?
Yeah, I'll second the motion.
Moved and seconded. Discussion. Discussion. Hearing none. Yeah, is that Bo?
It is, yeah.
All right, you have any discussion on this, Bo, or did you just get on?
Well, no, I've been on. Just a quick question. Have they gotten I guess, the blessing of the resident and that's within the 1 mile radius? Or is that gentleman still opposed to the project?
If you're going to talk, you have to come up to the mic.
I believe you're speaking to Bergstrom, tell me his first name. Daryl. We have not gotten written permission from him. We did go to the township board and presented to them, spent about 2.5 hours with them and had really good discussion. And they approved it at the township board. He did not show up at that meeting to speak against it. But we had met with him a few times, and but at this point, we have not gotten his permission.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? Any other discussion? Roll call, Beth?
Steve,
Yes.
Corey,
Yes.
Bo,
No?
Chris,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you. Brings us to item F, finance. Mr. Kalile. Anybody just listening, understand we didn't put Mr. Kalile in charge of finance. He's just under that on the agenda.
I'm not as good as I once was. Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to visit with you this morning. Our purpose in being here, may I introduce for you that do not know Jennifer. Jennifer Sumners is our Township Clerk for Williston Township, and she is the person who does all the work and makes everything happen in Williston Township. I'd asked Ryan to bring up a picture of the one of the projects. I'm going to start. We have two. Our purpose in being here this morning, gentlemen, is we have two special assessment districts coming up. The first one is Western Way. It's behind the Border Plains Equipment. And can you slide over there, Ryan? It's called Western Way. It's by Fish and Game. I didn't mean to confuse you with where we were going, but I thought I would do the easy one first. Right there. Okay, right where the pointer is, the short stretch of road there that that we have the approval to go ahead. We're out for bids on that one right now, and that is about a $300,000 project that will be assessed against those homeowners in the first two, right where the cursor is, it's on either side of the road there. So that's a fairly simple one. And then the second one, if we can go back now, Ryan, I'm sorry about that. That is the Corner Post project. That's for the proposed Lund Oil truck stop. Ryan, you want to bring the owners up on that like we had previously? No, not going there.
I think they're turned on this map.
Either way, that would work too, right, if you wanted to just zoom out. But it's, so on that one, at the bottom of the screen is James Drive coming in off the 285 bypass. Truck stop would be right where the green mark is. There we go. Right in the lower right-hand part of the quadrant. I'll leave that with you, Barry. So if we move the cursor up just a little bit, and back to the right, all of those, that, perhaps I should just walk up there. Can I do that, Corey? Nearly all of this, all the way up to here, and then we have, okay, Corner Post owns everything on the southwest portion of it. All of this, all these lots up in here. Symbolics own these two. Corner Post owns this one. Dakota Investments owns these three. That was Dean Bennett, or Dean Myers, excuse me, that did the Bennett subdivision. What we're looking at is paving from Wallworks right here. This is James Street. We're looking at paving all the way across. Concrete in this section, we're going to bid it as alternates, whether it's concrete all the way across to County 4 or concrete to pass the truck stop and then pavement from there so we can balance the cost. So the paving district will entail all of this area and then this row across here, leaving the possibility open to come back on the next go round and do this lower spot. Ryan, could you roll that up just a little bit? On Jackson Street right here. But with the, no, because in trying to get the bids out at the right time, which is in the next 6 weeks, that was just too much to take on. We can slide back down again, Ryan, please. Corner Post owns 46% of the project, 47%. And right now we have approval at 55% of the project. So we're working with Wallworks, we're working with Keller Supply, we're working with all the rest of the people in it. We need to get to 60% to go out for bid. And I'll give this back to you. So as soon as we have the 60% threshold, we'll be going out for bid. And once we have a hard number, then we will come back and we'll visit with those people again to make sure that the support is still there. It's an extra step that we like to do because it's so hard to sell an estimate. We like to have a hard number, especially on a project this big. The estimate that we have is 2.2 million for that short distance of road.
That's all concrete though, right?
That is all concrete. And like the rest of the Bennett subdivision, the road needs a lot of work to bring it up to county specs. I think you're all aware that everything else out there was never brought up to county specs or city specs, and it's in the ETJ now. So we're working with the city and with the engineers. So the question that we have is how would you like us to proceed going forward? The last project that we did it with our own assessment board. The the Western Way project's straightforward and simple. This is a big project that's a little more complicated. What we'd like to know is, going forward, do you want us to use your assessment committee, make up our own assessment committee? How would you like us to handle it?
Well,
And you could put some thought into that.
I guess my thoughts on it is if we are able to, you guys can, I mean, you guys have done this before, and it's not like you're brand new at it. Karen, can they just do their own legally?
Yes. Yeah, it's really up to, it's not for you to decide how they should handle it. That's up to the township to decide whether they want to use our assessment commission or do their own. I mean, that's their decision.
Okay.
Okay, but I think Dan's here to make sure we're all aware of what's going on. I mean, you're sharing with us what you're doing and just asking, correct? I mean,
Absolutely, and of course, there's an ulterior motive, is that we would like to come in and apply for one of your township loan program for the Western Way one. On the second project, going through your finance department, we're gonna end up at the Bank of North Dakota to bond that one. That seems like the best avenue, rather than having to go and sell bonds. It'd be much easier just to go to the Bank of North Dakota and work with them. But first, we have to get to that 60%, which seems very likely. It's just, it's a hard time to talk to property owners because people at that scale are vacationing, or they're in Florida, or they're somewhere else, and they're hard to get a hold of. And there's been a long process working with the city to get everything that they require, and that's taken all fall. We started on this, in fact, last summer on this project, on the Lund Oil project. So
does anybody got any questions?
And you said you're at 55%
we're
now?
at 55% right now.
Uh,
Because Cornerstone, our corner post is such a big part of it. That's easy. But there's, in going up and down the road out there and talking to people that are in those buildings and working out there, there's a lot of enthusiasm for the truck stop and for a decent road. And one of the things that we've been talking about in this project is that you can anticipate to some degree that there'll be some bleed-off traffic in and out of that truck stop. We're assuming that some trucks are gonna come in from the north, depending on the traffic situation, turn in off onto County 4, come down that west side and then into the truck stop. Or if they're coming from the south and are going north, they may want to go up that way and just avoid trying to get back on the 4-lane. We were concerned about last summer we were concerned about the traffic bleeding off to the west, going down County 4 to the south, and then come back around to make a right-hand turn going south at the 4 Mile. But now with the configuration of the turnarounds on the highway going west, I don't think they'll do that more than once. Because that's really difficult. So we're just trying to prepare for every eventuality out there.
Karen?
Yeah, I think that since the Western Way is a smaller project, I think that it might be a good idea to enhance the way we did with the Ferris project, is that they did their own special assessment commission, and then we entered into joint, and then that was through a loan that we gave to them, the township, and then we entered into joint powers agreement to collect it and then just pay off that loan from what we borrowed to them, really. So I guess since it's a smaller project, that's what I would recommend.
And that worked great. So we appreciated your help on that. Well, we'll just keep you informed of where we're going, and we get it put together, then we'll come back and see you again. So my goal is that, there be no surprises. We wanted to know what's going on.
We appreciate the update, and what we were hoping that you were gonna talk and not so much Dan, but you really haven't said anything to us.
He made me come up here.
Okay, well, you did a nice job in supporting Dan because he's a little bashful at times. Okay, thank you, I appreciate it. You got anything else?
Nope, but she's my backup. When I don't know a number, all I have to do is glance at her and it's right there. Thank you,
Perfect.
gentlemen.
Thanks, Dan, appreciate it. Was there any other department heads that needed anything besides, Dennis, you don't have anything today? Okay, Helen, looks like it's you.
Good morning. You'll see the position report actually is a report, but we don't have anything for approval today. Then I'll just give you one other update. In June of '24, Nick Haugen was here in front of the board talking on behalf or speaking on behalf of the Paradise Point Association. If you remember, he had questions about roads, questions about taxes in Nesson Valley Township. My update for you would be that we worked through his questions. Some of them were just education for Mr. Haugen and the Paradise Point Association Board. But one thing that came of it, my final report to you on this, is that we did determine that based on existing practice, there was a easement that was missing. And so with the help of our attorney, we were able to create that easement, work through with the Paradise Point Association, getting that signed and recorded. And so I just wanted to close the loop on that visit from Mr. Haugen. We got it all handled.
So
Took a little
Paradise
while.
Point is taken care of.
Yeah, I mean, part of the answer, one of his questions had been, could we turn over all of the subdivision roads to the township? And part of the determination there was that probably that is, they'd have to bring them up to township specs, just based on width and quality of build, that would be nearly impossible. And so, I mean, answers are sometimes, we checked into it and it probably doesn't take us anywhere, but we did get the easement in place, which I think clears up some questions in the future potentially, so. I would tell you also that during a legislative session, we are actively engaged with some of the organizations that we partner with who are helping us to monitor bills. We have had people down testifying before the legislature. I think we've had at least one person there each of the last couple of weeks. I think that the chairman and I have been summoned on Thursday, and so we may be going there as well. It isn't on a bill. They've asked that the 4 large oil and gas producing counties attend a meeting on Thursday, I think just to ask us questions about how GPT is leveraged in individual communities. So just know that in the background, we continue to work on legislative matters. There's a lot of bills. There could be a lot of impact on the county. One of the things that I would say is it's not just the impact on citizens' property tax, for example. It isn't just the impact on citizens in finding a way to reduce their property tax burden, but then there's also a piece of executing the work. And so we're watching not just how might the bills affect the public, but also how are we going to be able to implement them, whether that's software or the work that we do, the mailings we have to do. So we're kind of watching on 2 levels sometimes.
Just to add to that, if you guys do have questions on bills or need more information on bills, and she'll probably give me a dirty look, but to call, because when I've been needing help with some of them, I'm on a call once a week with NDCCA. Friday, we go through what's happened and what's going to happen. So there's times you just don't have enough hours in the day. So Lindsay's been great about helping out. I know Cameron's testified on a bill or two, and just appreciate everybody's help. And if you guys need us as far as department heads, don't be afraid to call, because we're more than happy to help out and call and explain it to us, because there are a lot of bills. So keeping up with them is darn near impossible. So.
Yeah, we're lucky to have Lindsay, who has a big spreadsheet, and I think she sent you a link to that, so you're able to also look and see. As they start to be weeded out, it will help to reduce the list that we're tracking, but for right now, it's a heavy lift.
Is that it, Helen?
I think so.
All right, thank you very much. With that, we go to item H, adjournment. We are adjourned.
Thank you.